introduced myself a single time. I'm Vasily Miroshnichenko. Apart from the fact that I took part in creating this media center, I am head of the Association of Alumni of London Schools of Economics, and I'm happy to welcome members of our initiative, which is called Professional Government. Our team is composed of 25 people, and 3 of them are here. Today they will tell us about what we have achieved within 3 months, the problems that we met, and how we plan to solve them. And I give the floor to Dan Pasko, who was elected the coordinator. He is the graduate of the Harvard University. He worked in investment, and now he joined the Minister of Economics team. Then the next person is Natalia Gonchar, who represents the Columbia University Alumni Association. She spent 8 years in the USA, but she decided that she wants to help Ukraine, so she came back here. And Oleg Goncharenko, he's from INSEAD Alumni Association. He's got his own business, but he's also active in our work. Natalia will be the first to speak. I'm a moderator now, so I will ask them difficult questions, but I'm sure that they will be able to answer. We are also being interpreted simultaneously into English and Russian. If you have any questions, you can ask them and also send me via Facebook. And so, Natalia, the floor is yours. Thank you, Vasil. Thank you, everybody, for your time and your interest in our community. We are glad to introduce the initiative of graduates of foreign universities who came back to Ukraine, and Ukraine is lucky in having us. We think that we're talented and progressive citizens who want to implement quality changes in formation of the government, and now we have the aim of finding ways and opportunities to improve the work of state foundations and institutions. We understand that the time has come now to decisively act. The Ukrainian people have won their right, not for the first time, to reload the state government and to stand in defense of Ukrainian statehood. We want both Ukrainian state and Ukrainian citizens to be protected, and this has to be the first and the most important aim of the government that is being created now. We want to implement these changes because we believe that our children are worthy to be born in high-tech hospitals, that our military are worthy of being treated as heroes, not to survive in spite of the circumstances they face today. We also believe that our kids are worthy of getting a very good education, and our grandparents are worthy of getting social help that prolongs, not shortens their lives. We also see that the state bodies that's been created over the 20 past years have degraded, and some of the ministers of the previous government were programmed to destroy the Ukrainian statehood. We were hearing all the time that Ukraine has a giant potential, and we understand that over these 20 years, this potential was not revealed, and the quality of life was not built upon it. What can we offer the graduates of Harvard, Columbia, Chicago universities, or the London School of Economics and INSEAD? We have now more than 2,000 specialists who studied in leading world's universities, who graduated in economy, economics, in politics. I want to give the floor to Dan, who will dwell in more detail on what's being done and what can be done. Thank you. Can I have my slide on the screen? Please, the person who helps us with technical bit, please show this slide on the screen. We'll close this presentation. Let's go there. Thank you once again, Natalia. Thank you, everyone who listens to us and watches us. Before I come to summing up results, I'd like to tell you a couple of words about the philosophy of our initiative. Different from other initiatives, which are very important, but which aim at generating ideas and drafts. Our initiative is aimed at solving the chief problem of the Ukrainian state. This is the problem of people who are here, and we are focused on helping the government to fill the vacancies with people who are able of doing a lot. To sum up the results of 3 months, I'll start with the good. Over the 3 months of our activities and our cooperation with the government, we got 33 vacancies from the government that we offered to fill, and we named 433 candidates for these vacancies. Out of this number, 25 people got offers, job offers, and out of those 25, 22 people accepted the offers. So at the moment, we have 22 people who work in different institutions, including ministries, committees of the parliament, and state companies. I would like to mark the most active members of the government who cooperate with us: Vice Premier Sich, Pavlo Sheremetyev, the Minister for Economy, Serhiy Kvit, the Minister for Education, and Valentin Nalyvaichenko, who heads the State Security Service. The main conclusion that we may draw is that the initiative does work. At the rate of 80% of vacancies that we got from the government, we suggested persons, and we filled 70% of the vacancies. And this means that the people whom we suggest are fitting the tasks, and the people are ready to go and do something. As far as bad news is concerned, over 4 months, we haven't got not a single, 4 weeks, we haven't got any application from the government. They have, in fact, stopped to cooperate with us. We also expected that after Mr. Poroshenko and Mr. Klitschko were elected, we were supposed to get some queries from them in order to fill vacancies in their teams, and we wrote respective letters to them. More than 2 weeks have passed, and we haven't got any answer from them, and no vacancies been offered. We understand that there are more important tasks, and especially in the east of the country and in Kiev, but we think that we could help in solving these tasks, and we do hope that these people start to cooperate with us. I would like to thank members of the governments who do cooperate with us, and we hope that the rest of them will work with us. And now I give the floor to Oleg Goncharenko, who will continue to present our initiative. Thank you very much for coming here and for being interested in the initiative that the graduates of our schools launched. As Dan and Natalie said, we meet some problems, but as far as positive things are concerned, there's a great degree of interest as far as our graduates are concerned to work in the government. They will help us to show this, but the main idea is that many people are ready to even work for free, and there are many people who are ready to leave their jobs, not only in Ukraine, but in other countries, come to Ukraine and help the government to work on a more professional level. And we see that this will very positively influence the processes that have started in the country and the demand for new faces in both politics and state management that is there in the society. As far as the problems are concerned, and we see them now, this is the problem of financing the graduates, because it's an open secret that the level of salaries in the civil service is not very high, but there are people who are ready to invest their time, for instance, 6 months or a year, and work for free. But there has to be an initiative coming from the government in order to involve those specialists in the government and provide them with an opportunity to implement the ideas and the experience that they have in business. So I want to tell you that in the future we may face the problem for further involvement of specialists of high degree, high level, and we are working to involve the foundations that will help us with bringing professionals to work for the government. Any questions?
I have a question because I'm the moderator and I also know about these things. Daniel, Natalia, Oleg, in order to implement reforms in Ukraine, we need to change the law on civil service. Yesterday we had the Vice Prime Minister Groisman here. I asked him about that. He said they will be doing it. What is the vision of your professional government on how to create the system for the civil servants so that they get good salaries, so that they're not interested in corruption, and this way we'll be able to eliminate corruption? Talking about the legislative reform, I believe we need to mention two things. And these two things are the things that we are working on. Most of the members of the government, even political positions which are considered to be such which where the political parties appoint people to, they should be filled in on the basis of the open competition. We are not just for our people to work in the government. We are for any person who wants, any person who has the degree received abroad or the degree received in Ukraine is able to apply to any position, so that then all the candidates are considered and the best ones are selected for the position. The best one should win. The second problem, we will not be able to attract all the best because the salary in the civil service is lower than in business. That is the problem that is to be addressed. We understand that the Ukrainian budget today is an empty chest, and they cannot pay people as much as they would like. But there are international donors who are ready to provide funding for professionals of high class. But there are some legal barriers which do not allow to have that type of funding. I believe we need to start work on legislation that would ensure the professionalism and transparency, and another one that would allow to pay money, additional money to people. Oleg was appointed to the position of the financial director of NAK Naftogaz. The leaders of NAK Naftogaz asked us, and they gave us that vacancy from our community. We sent the CVs of several candidates, and one of them became the financial director. That's one of the biggest positions, of the highest positions that we filled in, and we believe that our graduate, who has a very good experience of work in large financial international institutions, will bring something new and useful for forming financial transparency in NAK Naftogaz. Natalia, you as the graduate of Columbia University, you've never studied in Ukrainian University. You lived in the U.S. for 8 years. Just explain, why did you come back from New York? Why did you come back here? We work a lot with the Ministry of Education. What do you believe as a person who finished the college in the U.S. and who got the master's degree in the U.S.? What do we need to change in the system of higher and secondary education here? What do you believe we lack and what we need to do? Probably it's important to start from why I went to study abroad. I studied in a very good school where, with the English language education, and we had till the 9th class we had 5 people who got excellent marks, but by the time we were finishing school, we got 13 people who got medals, and that means that even secondary education was corrupt. And I wasn't interested in entering the university based on corruption. And also I would like to also say, why do we need to pay to experts high salaries? Because they are used to these high salaries. We do not say that in the government there should be equal salaries for everyone, but one of the things that we're used to is meritocracy and transparency. To enter Harvard University or Columbia University is really a big way that you have to pass, and you have to prove that you are better than other students, and that's based on meritocracy. And we believe that when we work in the government, we will prove that we are better and more efficient than other specialists who do not have experience or education that we have. Return to Ukraine. Well, I love Ukraine. Life abroad is a good experience, interesting experience. All those who have an opportunity, I do support the understanding that that's the experience you need to get. But for me, it's even a strange question. Ukraine is my country. I'm Ukrainian. I have never had a desire to immigrate from this country. Coming back to the level of education, first of all, we shouldn't have the ministers like we had, ministers like Tabachnik. I am interested in what the government is doing, especially those services which have to investigate the work of such type of people. But we can leave that issue. Also, if we are not competitive in our education, both in secondary and higher education, unfortunately, Ukraine will leave the market, the world market, as an exporter. Working in pharmaceutical sector, we can feel that need in specialists who know how to think and analyze, to say openly the methods and products which were produced in China 10 years ago. Our specialists in the laboratories, they cannot even restore the methods or repeat the methods which have been created by someone and which are obsolete now. Can we work together with the Ministry of Education? We received requests, we worked on them. I believe there are many people who are interested in these reforms. and they are ready to work pro bono, and they are ready to just get employed by the ministry.
Your movement to renew the state here in Ukraine, because there are many students that attended and graduated from institutions like the University of Missouri or University of Michigan or minor institutions that also would be interested in helping Ukraine. And my second question is, what is your position on the reforms in higher education? Because I know there was a bill that was being proposed, I believe it was yesterday before the Verkhovna Rada, and there was a demonstration on behalf of that. Where do you think that, what needs to be done with reform of higher education?
So addressing the first question, thank you for the question and thank you for being here. Today our platform is open for anyone who had achieved and who graduated from a Western university, including the ones which you named. Basically, it's not just the members of the clubs which united to organize the initiative. Anyone who has a Western degree can file his CV through a website. We will check whether he in fact graduated or not, and then if he did, he will be added to the database, and everyone in this database is receiving the vacancies and receiving the invitations to all the events of professional government. So in that sense, anyone can apply, and there is no problem of adding them to our database. As for your second question, I personally am not ready to comment since I'm not familiar with the draft law which you're talking about. We will study the draft and we will get back to you on this. Thank you.
Just to elaborate a little bit about that, because apart from the university alumni clubs, we have alumni of the programs, US government-funded and British government-funded programs, and EU-funded programs. So we have Muskie alumni, we have Fulbright alumni, we have Tuning alumni, and Erasmus Mundus alumni. Basically, people who have studied at various universities in the US or UK or Europe. So, I mean, it's pretty broad. We have 3,000 people right now, but we are looking for more because there are more out there. It's difficult to reach out and find them all, but we are on the way, and I'm sure we're going to find them. Чи у нас є ще питання до...
Any other questions to our presenters? I have another question. I have a question because really you mentioned Nalyvaichenko and security service. Could you tell where people went, which vacancies people filled in, what they will be doing there? Because our security service, I believe, is not competitive like most of our ministries because of different reasons. It has always been such, but for last years it was basically ruined. Where people went, I would be interested in hearing about the impressions of those people who already work for, have been working for 2 months in the government. Then tell us, what have you seen in the Ministry of Economy and about security service? Talking about security service, we're in contact with them, and the answer we can give, they work in analytical service. Unfortunately, I cannot share any more details. Talking about my experience of work in the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade, this experience is positive now. The first thing I can share, Pavlo Sheremetyev is interested in cooperation with graduates of Western universities. He's interested in cooperation with foreign experts. And I can feel today that he's interested, that he supports at each stage. But our team today is working on strategy and development of the strategy. That's the work which is not does not cause any opposition. We feel that many people inside the government, inside the department, the deputy minister, outside of the ministry, the MPs, experts, different associations, the World Bank, they want to join this process of strategy development, and that's good because many of them have some ideas that are to be used. There's no sense of doing the same work again. So we feel support now from everywhere. But the question for me is, what will happen when we move from development of strategy to strategy implementation? Then probably when there will be the task to take away the powers from some agency, or to eliminate the monopoly in some industry, or to remove barriers that help some civil servants to implement corrupt practices, then probably we will see some opposition. One of the criteria according to which we'll be selecting initiatives is the criteria of opposition. We would like to focus on things which will cause minimum opposition but will lead to maximum economic effect. There was an initiative under Yanukovych that was called the Committee on Economic Reforms, and the Committee on Economic Reforms was working for 4 years of McKinsey. Other consultants worked with them. They developed wonderful initiatives on reforming Ukrainian economy, medical reform, pension reform, and these were great ideas, the strategy for Kyiv development, but they failed to implement it. Why do you believe we will be able to implement all these plans, the strategies? Why they failed then and now we will succeed? What's your inner feeling?
Thank you. Yes, really. There is a number of organizations that were very actively involved in drafting and releasing Ukrainian reforms, the Fund of Effective Government, Efficient Governance, and some other. They were drafting both strategy and practical implementation for the strategy. We are working very actively with them, and we are accepting their drafts, and we include them into our working groups, so that the experience that they gained is not lost. I don't say that the things that they were working on were absolutely inefficient. I would say that they have arrived at some very efficient things, like the cancellation of licenses and the shortening of the term of gaining building permits and some other things. And if we are talking about the problems that they met the problems of realizing some of their initiatives where they saw interests of oligarchs and corruption interests. And as of today, the main problem, I think, will be the passing of draft laws through the parliament. This is the main barrier that we feel even today. If you analyze the laws that the parliament has passed over the last 2 months, you will see that even the key laws that were necessary both for economy and the situation with the anti-terrorist operation are being passed with great problems. They have to be voted for 4 and 5 times. As of today, the composition of the parliament is not helping to quickly carry on the economic reforms, especially where there are painful reforms that will take away from someone the corrupted business, or that will worsen the economic situation of part of the Ukrainian society. But this is inevitable. As far as the executive power is concerned, from my experience, most of the people are interested in implementing those reforms, and there is quite a sufficient number of people who are morally healthy, and this allows to hope for the better. Oleg, you have a IT business, and there are 2 approaches to stimulate initiative. The American approach is that the state does not interfere into the industry, and the industry generates novelties itself. The European model is different. They wanted to impose on the IT technology industry to be innovative, and they weren't successful in this. And which model will prevail in Ukraine, and what is the role of the state here? Thank you for the question. A person who has lived in the U.S. for almost a year, I am a follower of the American model because the system of education there was there, according to the same principles, even in the 19th century, to provide a platform for the gathering of clever people, and the rest will be done by themselves. We see Silicon Valley, which happened due to three things: academic knowledge, the concentration of very good universities, and the second thing is the climate that helps to involve specialists in San Francisco, and the third thing is finance that help small businesses with a starting capital of several $1,000s to become multi-billion corporations. The examples of Yahoo or Google, we see that the American principle works. What I see in Europe, I know many incubators that are being sponsored by the state in Germany or Italy, but this does not provide the effect that there has to be a platform without regulation, and this will help clever people to do things on themselves. Natalia, how do you think, if you were told, we value your experience and expertise in one sphere, and we are ready to involve you as an expert in one sphere, so what's this sphere or ministry is going to be? In reality, there can be a lot of interesting initiatives. There can be education reform and the Ministry of Economy, because I am an economist by specialty, so there will be probably two priorities that I say. What about the health ministry? You are working in pharmaceutics now, and this is probably the most corrupted ministry, apart from the Ministry of Incomes and Excise. What are your impressions now? I think that if there's a political will, and if there's a political will aimed at transparent purchase of medical goods, the state will be able to save a lot of money. As far as pharmaceuticals are concerned, this is a very expensive sphere. This is not IT sphere. We have pharmaceutical producers, manufacturers in Ukraine that are working and developing, and I don't think that we should just talk about this. I think that if the state supported innovative achievements, then this will work. At the moment, Ukraine is importing, not exporting medicines, and this is not original what is being manufactured in Ukraine. Most of the products are being created abroad, and they are too expensive. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. Let's hope for our mutual success.